I grew up in a small town near a swamp. Everyone there knew the legend of the Demon Mirror, an old mirror dredged up from the whirling marsh nearly 100 years ago. People said that anyone who looked into it at midnight, if they harbored a secret too dark to speak, would no longer see themselves in the reflection. Instead, they would see the person who knew it before they did. I always thought it was a tale to scare kids, until I turned 21 and returned to the town for the funeral of my distant aunt, Thoa, an old woman who lived alone, childless, and happened to be the last person residing near the whirling marsh. They found her dead in a locked room. The mirror inside was shattered into 7 shards, and her face was no longer whole, as if it had been peeled away with fingernails. The strange part? On each shard of glass, a different face was reflected. Not one of them was hers. I stayed behind to clean out her house per her will. The house was old and cold, thick with the scent of camphor oil, curtains heavy with time. In the middle of sorting through dusty drawers, I found a small wooden box locked with copper wire. I pried it open. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed, handwriting slanted and frantic. The first page read, "If you've opened the mirror, never look into it alone." I didn't understand. But as I flipped through, I found a list of names, dates, and a recurring phrase. No reflection. The final entry read, Guienti Toa, 3:03 a.m. That was my aunt. I thought she was delusional, but I stayed anyway, more out of curiosity than mourning. The first night, I dreamt of Aunt Thoa. She sat in front of a mirror, back turned, her white hair draping down like a veil. She was mumbling something, laughing and crying all at once. I walked closer. When she turned around, her face was blank. There was only a sunken, swirling void, right where her features should have been. I woke up, heart pounding, drenched in cold sweat, and the mirror in her room was no longer broken. It stood upright, fully intact, reflecting me perfectly, except my reflection wasn't moving. I blinked, looked again. The image stood still. Then I fled the room. But each night after that, the mirror changed. Sometimes it reflected nothing. Sometimes it showed someone else standing behind me, a little girl in white. Sometimes it was Aunt Thoa herself, cradling a red silk scarf, whispering, "Do you know what death really is?" I tried to smash it, but the mirror wouldn't shatter anymore. I used a hammer. It only rippled, like the surface of water. I confronted my parents. They avoided the topic. Finally, my grandmother, blind since she was 45, spoke up. That mirror was pulled from the whirling marsh in 1921 by a man. 3 days later, his wife disappeared. He went blind. Before dying, he said, "The mirror isn't for seeing, it's for remembering. It holds what people try to forget." After that, everyone who looked into it vanished. She warned me, "Don't let the mirror remember your face." But it was too late. I began losing memories. Dreams flooded in. I saw myself as a child, standing in front of the mirror, asking Aunt Thoa, "Is there someone inside?" I saw myself look into it once before, and I saw something else, something that wasn't me. I saw a shadowy figure emerging from the marsh, carrying the mirror, face indistinct, muttering, "You belong to me now." I went back to the journal. On the final page, in different handwriting, someone had written, "To leave the mirror, you must leave something behind." I wondered, what? A soul? Blood? I tried cutting my palm, drawing circles in front of the mirror. Nothing changed. Then I realized no one in the list had children. I understood. The mirror didn't want souls. It wanted continuation. If I didn't destroy it, it would follow me. Then my child. Then theirs. I decided to return it to the marsh. At midnight, I carried it to the whirling marsh. The moon was dim, the wind cold, the water lay still. I waded in. It was ice cold. The mirror was impossibly heavy, as if something was pulling it back. I whispered, "I don't want to continue. I don't want to remember." The mirror quivered. Then it breathed. I let go. It sank, slowly, without a sound. But as I turned away, behind me, there was still a reflection. A figure, standing still. It wasn't me. House number 41 on Pham Van Hu Street, District 5, has stood abandoned since 1983. Its plaster walls are cracked open, the rusted iron gate leans crookedly, and vines have overrun the second-floor balcony. Everyone in the neighborhood knows one rule: never linger outside after 6 p.m. The front gate will swing open by itself, and a voice will invite you in, even though the house is supposed to be empty. I'm a freelance journalist specializing in forgotten urban legends. When I first heard of this house, I immediately tried to request access through local authorities. But no one wanted to talk. One district official whispered to me, "If you value your life, don't stir that up. That house doesn't belong to the living." There are no building permits, no ownership records. The only thing people agree on is this. Every year, on the 7th day of the 7th lunar month, someone disappears in front of the house. No struggle, no trace. I arrived at 5 p.m., bringing a voice recorder, an infrared camera, and a blank notebook. Standing at the gate, I felt a chill rise from the ground. The air was so still I could hear my heartbeat. I wasn't planning to go inside. I just wanted to observe. But then, the gate opened on its own. The creak of the iron gate echoed louder than it should have. The hinges groaned like something waking up after a long, dreamless sleep. I froze. For a second, the street behind me seemed to vanish into silence. No motorbikes, no footsteps, no wind. Just the open mouth of the house, daring me to step inside. I told myself I wouldn't. I told myself I would observe. But I stepped forward. Not by will. Something else moved my legs. As I passed the gate, the temperature dropped sharply. My breath became visible, like fog rising from a swamp. I felt the sensation of walking into water, though the ground beneath was dry. And then the gate slammed shut behind me. I turned. It was sealed. The rusted bars twisted together like fingers interlocked. There was no turning back. The garden was overgrown and dying. Every plant was brown and brittle, except for a single white flower growing directly in the middle, its petals unnaturally perfect, as if waxed. The house loomed before me. Its wooden doors had once been red. Now they were a deep, blotched black like dried blood. Carved into the left panel was the outline of a hand, an adult's hand, but the fingers were too long and the palm too narrow, as if stretched by time. I reached for the handle. The door opened before I touched it. Inside, the air was warm, damp. A smell hit me. Old incense, mold, and something else, like burnt hair. The foyer was dim. A long hallway stretched forward, lined with dark wood furniture under white dust covers. A single grandfather clock stood against the far wall, but its hands spun counterclockwise, ticking in reverse. I stepped in. Each footstep felt like it echoed into somewhere deeper than the house. I set up my voice recorder on a low table near the entrance and clicked it on. "My name is Min Tran," I said aloud. "This is house number 41. I am alone. Entered at 5:17 p.m. The recorder clicked, whined, and continued running. I moved further in. The walls were lined with old paintings. All were portraits, men, women, children. Each face was turned slightly to the side, never looking forward. One of them, an old woman with long silver hair, had her eyes closed, but I could swear I saw her mouth move as I passed. I entered the main living room. The air changed, heavier, almost buzzing. There were no windows in this part of the house. Only candles lit the room, though I hadn't seen anyone light them. They flickered gently as I entered, and I realized every single one burned with a blue flame. In the center of the room stood a round table with 6 chairs. 5 of them were occupied. Figures sat motionless, dressed in old formal wear from decades past. Their skin was grayish, waxen, almost unreal. At first, I thought they were mannequins. But then one blinked. I froze. Their heads slowly turned, one by one, toward me. No one stood. No one spoke. But I felt something press into my chest, like a hand reaching through my ribs. Then one of them, the woman in a chipao with black pearls around her neck, tilted her head slightly and pointed to the 6th chair. An invitation. I couldn't move. My legs locked, but my arms trembled. My breath grew shallow, and then I sat. As soon as I did, the lights dimmed. The blue flames flickered taller, casting long shadows that danced against the walls. The figures around the table leaned in. The woman whispered in perfect, clear Vietnamese, "Have you brought it?" My mouth opened, but no sound came out. She leaned closer, eyes completely black, pupils indistinguishable from the void. "The memory. The one you buried." I didn't answer. She reached across the table. Her fingers passed through my chest like smoke. A pressure tightened in my head, and I saw it. My sister, drowning. We were children. I had pushed her into the stream behind our grandparents' house. We were playing, but she hit her head. I ran. I never told anyone. I had buried it so deep I'd convinced myself it didn't happen. Tears streamed down my face. The figures at the table nodded, slowly, as if in approval. The woman spoke again. Now the house remembers you. The walls groaned. The paintings on the wall turned to face forward. All of them. Every face now had my features. I stood, stumbled back, but the room shifted. The door behind me was gone. The hall now stretched in both directions, infinitely long, lined with mirrors, each showing different versions of me. One with blood on my hands, one with eyes sewn shut, one screaming silently as something pulled him backward into blackness. The mirrors began to crack, one by one, and behind the cracks I saw eyes, dozens of them, watching me. I turned and ran. The hallway twisted like a spiral staircase turned inside out. Gravity made no sense. My feet hit walls, then ceilings. I burst through a door, into the bathroom. A single mirror hung above a stone basin filled with black water. I looked. My reflection smiled. I did not. It raised its hand. I did not. Then it opened its mouth, wide, too wide. From within, a second face emerged, crawling out from behind its teeth. I smashed the mirror. This time, it shattered, and from the shards, whispers bled into the room. You can't leave. You fed the house. I staggered backward, fell. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the foyer. The voice recorder was still running. I picked it up. The tape had already reached 1 hour, but I had only been inside for minutes. I hit playback. All I heard was a child crying. Then the sound of a door closing. Then my own voice, barely recognizable, whispering, I'm home.